There are moments in life when silence is not weakness, but wisdom. Too often, people rush to respond, to prove themselves right, or to make their presence known. But true strength isn't always in speaking. Sometimes it's in holding back, observing, and knowing when words will only add fuel to a fire. Silence is power because it creates space. Space to think, to control, and to protect what truly matters. The first situation where silence is your greatest weapon is when your emotions are running high. In anger, people spill out words they later regret. In sadness, they reveal wounds that others may use against them. When emotions take the driver's seat, judgment goes out the window. Speaking in that state doesn't resolve issues, it escalates them. If you've ever snapped in frustration, you know the damage words can cause. That's why in moments of heat, the strongest thing you can do is close your mouth, breathe, and let time cool your mind before you open it again. Silence then is not avoidance, it is control. It says, I will not be ruled by my emotions. Another time to choose silence is when someone deliberately tries to provoke you. There are people who thrive on conflict, who push buttons just to see if you will explode. They want a reaction because your reaction feeds their sense of power. The mistake is to give them what they want. Instead, silence denies them the satisfaction. When you don't respond, when you don't take the bait, you win without even engaging in battle. Silence becomes your shield, showing the other person that their words are powerless against you. There are also times when silence protects your credibility when you don't know enough about a subject. Too many people speak just to sound smart, but in the process, they reveal ignorance. The wise understand that silence in these moments is more powerful than pretending. Observing, listening, and absorbing knowledge makes you stronger than speaking just to fill the air. When you stay quiet, you protect your reputation, because once careless words are spoken, they can't be taken back. Silence buys you time to learn and time to respond with strength when the moment is right. Silence is also necessary when gossip and negativity surround you. Small minds trade in rumors, in tearing down others, in wasting energy on nonsense. When you join in, you lower yourself to their level. But when you choose silence, you separate yourself from that noise. You show that your focus is on growth, not destruction. The person who doesn't contribute to gossip earns respect. Even if people don't say it out loud, they know your silence means you're not someone who can be manipulated into spreading poison. Another powerful situation where silence matters is when someone else needs to be heard. Too often, people listen only to reply, not to understand. But real strength is in quieting yourself so another person can express their truth. Sometimes your silence becomes a gift. It allows someone else to release what they've been carrying, and in that process, you gain trust and respect. Silence here is not about holding back. It's about giving space. And in giving space, you build deeper connections than words could ever create. Silence also protects your vision. Not everyone deserves to hear your plans, your dreams, your next move. Share too much, and you open doors for doubt, sabotage, or envy. People may not celebrate your vision the way you do. They may try to tear it apart before it has time to grow. By staying silent, you protect your ambition until it is strong enough to stand on its own. Your silence says, I don't need validation. I know where I'm going, and I don't need to broadcast it. That kind of silence is sacred. It keeps your dreams safe from small minds. There are moments where silence is also an act of kindness. Words have the power to heal, but they also have the power to wound. Sometimes, what you are thinking doesn't need to be spoken. A cruel truth delivered without compassion can cut deeper than any knife. Silence in these moments is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is knowing that protecting someone's dignity is more valuable than proving your point. Another time to remain silent is when your energy is being tested by unnecessary battles. Not every fight deserves your attention. Some conflicts are distractions, designed to drain you of focus and strength. If you answer every insult, every challenge, every pointless argument, you spread yourself thin. But silence protects your energy. It says, I will not waste myself on things beneath me. And in that restraint, you preserve your power for battles that actually matter. Finally, silence becomes your greatest ally when peace is more valuable than winning. Some people argue not to solve problems, but just to dominate. Engaging with them is like pouring fuel on fire. It never ends. But silence can end it. It shuts the door on pointless wars, leaving you with your peace intact. Winning an argument may give you a momentary thrill, but keeping your peace gives you lasting strength. Silence here is the ultimate victory because it shows you value serenity over ego. So, in these moments, when emotions burn hot, when provoked, when you don't know enough, when gossip is thick, when others need to be heard, when your vision must be protected, when words could wound, when your energy is tested, and when peace is worth more than pride, choose silence. Because silence is not empty, it is full of power, full of control, and full of wisdom. When your emotions are running high, silence becomes one of the most powerful tools you can use. Think about the times in your life when you were angry, frustrated, or deeply hurt. In those moments, words often come out faster than thought. They come out sharp, unfiltered, and sometimes destructive. Anger makes you say things that don't represent who you truly are. Frustration makes you lash out at the wrong people, and sadness can lead you to expose vulnerabilities to those who may not deserve that part of you. The result is regret. Regret for words spoken that cannot be unsaid. Regret for the damage done in seconds that can take months or even years to repair. Silence in those moments is not weakness. It is the highest form of discipline. It shows that you are not a slave to your emotions, but a master of them. People often confuse speaking up with strength, but strength isn't about being loud. It's about being in control. When emotions are boiling, your brain is in survival mode. It reacts, it doesn't reason. This is why arguments get out of hand so quickly. Because two people stop listening and start attacking. In that chaos, silence is the only weapon that works. When you don't respond immediately, you give yourself the chance to breathe, to think, to let the emotional storm pass. And once the storm calms, your words will carry weight instead of venom. Silence creates the space for wisdom to enter. Imagine a heated argument where someone is throwing harsh words at you, trying to provoke a reaction. If you respond instantly, chances are your words will only mirror their anger. That exchange escalates, and suddenly the situation is out of control. But if you choose silence, the energy of the moment shifts. The other person may still shout, but your stillness unsettles them. It forces them to confront their own behavior, because without your reaction, their anger has nowhere to land. Silence in that moment is strength wrapped in restraint. It says, I am in control of me, no matter how much you lose control of yourself. Silence in emotional moments also gives you perspective. When you stop speaking, you start observing. You begin to see more clearly what the real issue is. Was the argument truly about what was said, or is there a deeper wound beneath it? Is your anger really about that one situation, or is it the accumulation of stress you've been carrying? Silence allows you to process the truth, while speaking too soon blinds you to it. People who can remain silent in emotional storms are not suppressing themselves. They are protecting themselves from making permanent decisions in temporary feelings. There's also a psychological power in silence. When you refuse to let your emotions push words out of your mouth, you are training your mind to be stronger than your feelings. Emotions are temporary, but the consequences of words are permanent. A single phrase said in anger can ruin trust, can destroy relationships, can burn bridges you might need later. The person who practices silence learns to separate emotion from action, and in doing so, they build a reputation of steadiness. People learn they can trust you because you don't break under emotional pressure. Your silence tells the world that you are not reactive, you are deliberate. Even in sadness, silence is powerful. When your heart is heavy, the instinct is often to talk, to share, to vent. And while there is nothing wrong with expressing pain to those who truly care for you, blurting your struggles to the wrong people can be dangerous. Not everyone who listens is listening to help you. Some listen to use your pain against you later. Some listen to gossip, to twist your words, or to secretly celebrate your downfall. In moments of sadness, silence protects your vulnerability until you can decide who truly deserves to hear your truth. Silence in sadness isn't about isolation, it's about protection. Frustration is another emotional state where silence can change everything. When you're frustrated, whether it's with work, with people, or with yourself, it's easy to vent that frustration outward. You snap at someone who doesn't deserve it, or you complain endlessly about your problems, only to make them feel heavier. But when you remain silent, even for a short while, you give yourself the chance to calm down and find solutions instead of magnifying the problem. Silence creates space for clarity, and clarity leads to better choices. Some people believe silence in emotional moments makes you look weak, but that is only in the eyes of those who don't understand power. Real weakness is being controlled by your feelings, saying and doing things you later have to apologize for. Real strength is knowing you could speak, but choosing not to. It's knowing you could lash out, but deciding to hold your peace. Silence doesn't mean surrender. It means you are smart enough to value peace over chaos, wisdom over impulse. Silence also has the power to heal. When you don't immediately respond in anger, you give relationships a chance to mend instead of break. Words spoken in heat can create scars, but silence leaves room for recovery. It allows you to return later, calmer, with words that build instead of destroy. Silence turns conflict into an opportunity for growth because it keeps the door open to reconciliation. In the end, choosing silence when emotions are high is about respect. Respect for yourself, respect for others, and respect for the future you're creating. And every word you speak plants a seed, and when emotions rule you, those seeds often grow into regret. But silence plants nothing harmful. It gives you time to choose better seeds, seeds that will grow into understanding, peace, and strength. It may not feel easy in the moment. Your emotions will scream to be expressed. But every time you choose silence, you are proving to yourself that you are not controlled by impulses. You are in control of your own power, and that is something no one can take from you. There will always be people in life who try to provoke you, who poke at your weaknesses, who deliberately push your buttons to see if they can make you lose control. Some do it out of insecurity, some out of jealousy, and others simply because they thrive on conflict. Whatever the reason, their power doesn't come from their words or actions, it comes from your reaction. The moment you respond in anger, the moment you lash out or let them drag you into their chaos, they win. But when you choose silence, when you refuse to give them what they want, you take back your power. Silence becomes your armor, and it protects your dignity in ways that words never could. When someone is trying to provoke you, they are really trying to control you. Think about it. If they can make you shout, if they can make you angry, if they can make you act out of character, they've successfully dictated your emotions. They've made you a puppet, and your strings are being pulled by their behavior. But silence cuts those strings. It shows them that no matter what they say, no matter what they do, you are unshaken. You don't give them the satisfaction of seeing you lose your composure. And in that moment, the balance of power shifts. They lose control while you remain calm and unbroken. Silence in the face of provocation is not about weakness or avoidance. It's about mastery. It's about showing yourself and the world that you are not easily moved. Anyone can shout back. Anyone can argue. But it takes real strength to stay calm, to stay silent, and to refuse to stoop down to someone else's level. Silence communicates more than anger ever could. It says, I am not here to entertain your drama. I am not here to waste my energy on something so small. Your silence becomes a mirror, forcing the other person to face themselves without the distraction of your reaction. Think about a time when someone tried to insult you, waiting for your response. Maybe they laughed, maybe they mocked you, maybe they said something they knew would sting. If you answered back, chances are the situation escalated. It became a battle of words, and each side tried to outdo the other. But if you stayed silent, what happened? Their words hung in the air with nowhere to land. Without your reaction, their power dissolved. They may have tried harder, repeated themselves, or gotten louder. But the more they tried, the more foolish they looked. Silence doesn't just protect you, it exposes them. There's also a psychological advantage to silence. People expect confrontation. They expect resistance. When they don't get it, they don't know what to do. Your silence unsettles them because they realize they cannot control you. They cannot get under your skin. That realization alone often makes them back off because the game is no longer fun for them. In this way, silence becomes your quiet victory. It wins without fighting. But silence doesn't just protect you in the moment, it protects your reputation. If you argue back in public, if you lose your temper, people will remember your reaction more than the provocation. They won't say, "That person was provoked." They'll say, "That person lost control." But if you remain silent, if you handle the situation with composure, people see you differently. They see you as someone who can't be shaken easily, someone who doesn't waste energy on petty battles. Your silence earns respect from those watching, even if they never say it aloud. Of course, silence isn't always easy. When someone insults you, every part of you wants to defend yourself, to prove them wrong, to strike back harder. That urge is natural, but giving in to it only feeds the other person. True strength lies in resisting that urge. It's in knowing that you don't need to prove yourself with words. You don't need to respond to every attack. Your value, your worth, and your identity are not up for debate. Silence in that moment is your declaration that their opinion does not define you. Silence also gives you control over your energy. Every argument, every confrontation drains something from you. If you respond to every insult, you scatter your energy across battles that don't matter. But if you stay silent, you conserve that energy for the things that truly deserve it. Your goals, your growth, your future. Not every battle is worth fighting, and silence is your way of saying, "I choose my battles wisely." You are not avoiding conflict. You are refusing to waste your fire on something that will not move you forward. There is also a deeper layer to silence. It teaches you discipline. The more you practice staying silent in the face of provocation, the stronger your self-control becomes. You learn to respond instead of react. You train your mind to pause, to think, and to decide whether speaking is worth it. Over time, silence becomes second nature, and with it comes a peace that no one can shake. Because when you are no longer triggered by every insult, every provocation, you become untouchable. So when people try to provoke you, when they test your patience, when they look for cracks in your armor, remember this silence is not empty. It is full of power. It is full of control. It is the mark of someone who knows their worth and refuses to lower themselves for anyone. The next time someone tries to drag you into their chaos, don't give them your energy. Don't give them your words. Give them your silence and let that silence speak louder than anything you could ever say. There will be times when silence is wiser than words, especially when you don't have enough knowledge about something. In today's world, people rush to speak, to give opinions, to prove that they know, even when they don't. But the truth is, nothing exposes ignorance faster than speaking without understanding. Words once spoken cannot be taken back. And careless words can harm your credibility, your reputation, and the way people see you. When you stay silent in moments where you lack the facts, you protect yourself. You show humility. You create space to listen, to learn, and to absorb knowledge before you contribute. That is strength, not weakness. Too often, people mistake silence for emptiness, when in reality silence is full of wisdom. Think of the times when you've been in a conversation, and someone started speaking confidently about a topic they clearly didn't understand. At first, it might sound convincing, but soon the holes in their knowledge appear. People notice the exaggerations, the mistakes, the lack of depth. What started as an attempt to impress ends in embarrassment. Now contrast that with the person who stays silent, listens carefully, and only speaks once they've gathered their thoughts or done their research. That person earns respect because their words carry weight. People know that when they speak, it's not noise, it's truth. Silence in moments of limited knowledge also gives you power in relationships and negotiations. When you speak too quickly, especially without facts, you reveal your hand. You give others information they can use against you. But when you remain silent, you maintain an air of mystery. People wonder what you know, what you're thinking, and what you're holding back. Silence keeps them guessing, and in many situations, that uncertainty works in your favor. Speaking without knowledge gives away your weakness, but silence hides it until you've had time to strengthen yourself. Another advantage of silence is that it allows you to observe. When you stop talking, you start paying attention. You notice details others miss. You learn who is confident and who is pretending. You learn where the truth lies and where people are bluffing. Silence gives you the opportunity to absorb not just the facts being spoken, but the emotions, the energy, and the intentions behind the words. While others are busy trying to impress, you are gathering information that will make you stronger when it's your turn to speak. Remaining silent also protects your reputation long term. Once people know you as someone who speaks without knowledge, they stop taking you seriously. They dismiss your words before you even finish speaking. But if you're known as someone who only speaks when you have something meaningful to add, your voice becomes valuable. People lean in when you talk because they know you won't waste their time. Silence in ignorance builds credibility because it shows that you care more about truth than ego. It takes discipline to stay silent when you feel the pressure to speak. Ego pushes us to prove ourselves, to show that we know, to avoid looking weak. But in reality, silence in ignorance is not weakness. It's wisdom and humility. It shows that you are strong enough to say, "I don't know right now, but I am willing to learn." That attitude doesn't diminish you, it elevates you. People respect honesty more than false confidence. And when you choose silence, you avoid the trap of pretending, which always collapses eventually. Silence also creates space for growth. When you don't speak, you listen. And when you listen, you learn. Every time you choose silence in a situation where you lack knowledge, you give yourself the chance to become smarter, stronger, and better prepared. Instead of filling the air with empty words, you fill your mind with understanding. That's how you grow. Not by proving you know everything, but by having the discipline to admit when you don't. Consider the greatest leaders, thinkers, and mentors. They are not the ones who speak the loudest or the most often. They are the ones who listen, who observe, who wait until the right moment to speak. Their silence gives their words more power because they choose them carefully. They understand that silence is not a gap to be filled. It's a tool to be used. And when you apply that same discipline in your own life, people will begin to see you differently. They will see someone who values truth over pride, wisdom over noise. In professional life, silence, when you don't have enough knowledge, can be the difference between progress and failure. Speaking without facts in a meeting, in a deal, or in front of leaders can damage trust and close doors. But silence allows you to go back, gather information, and return stronger. It shows that you are thoughtful, that you don't make reckless statements, and that you take things seriously. Over time, this earns you more respect than the person who speaks endlessly, but says little of value. Even in personal life, silence protects your relationships. Sometimes people speak without knowing the full story. They jump to conclusions, they spread misinformation, they make accusations without facts. Those words create pain, mistrust, and unnecessary conflict. But silence gives time for the truth to surface. It gives you the chance to gather facts before forming an opinion. Silence prevents you from wounding people with words that you can't take back. In the end, silence when you don't know is not about holding back forever. It's about waiting until you do know. It's about choosing the right moment to speak, when your words will carry strength, clarity, and truth. It's about protecting your credibility, your dignity, and your growth. Because the world doesn't respect noise, it respects wisdom, and wisdom begins with silence. Gossip and negativity are traps that can pull anyone in if they're not careful. They spread quickly, like fire in dry grass, and once you participate in them, it's hard to separate yourself from the damage they cause. Silence, in these moments, is your shield. It keeps you from being dragged into conversations that serve no purpose other than to tear others down. When you choose not to engage, you show strength. You show discipline. You prove that your mind is too focused on growth to waste energy on small-minded talk. When people gossip, What they are really doing is trying to build themselves up by tearing someone else down. They focus on flaws, on mistakes, on stories, whether true or exaggerated, that make someone else look bad. But here's the truth. People who constantly gossip reveal more about themselves than the people they talk about. They reveal insecurity, jealousy, and a lack of direction in their own lives. If you join them, even silently agreeing or adding small remarks, you attach yourself to that energy. You become part of the cycle of negativity, and eventually, others will see you as someone who cannot be trusted. Because the same way you talk about others with them, they will assume you talk about them with others. Silence breaks that cycle. It separates you from their poison. Choosing silence when gossip arises doesn't mean you are weak or afraid to speak. It means you understand that not everything deserves your voice. Some conversations are not worth your contribution. By remaining quiet, you make a statement without words that you will not lower yourself to tearing people apart. You hold your ground without even engaging. People notice that. They may not say it aloud, but they respect the person who doesn't feed the gossip. Silence earns you a reputation for integrity, for maturity, and for being someone whose focus is higher than petty talk. Negativity works the same way. When people constantly complain, criticize, or dwell on problems without seeking solutions, they create an environment that drains energy. If you participate in that negativity, even with good intentions, you invite the same heaviness into your life. Negativity spreads like a virus. It enters your mind, weighs down your spirit, and blinds you to opportunities. But when you remain silent, when you don't feed into the complaints, you protect your mental space. Your silence becomes a barrier between their darkness and your light. Silence in the presence of gossip and negativity also gives you power over yourself. It teaches you discipline. The urge to join in can be strong. After all, gossip often comes wrapped in curiosity and excitement. Negativity often comes disguised as bonding, as people find comfort in complaining together. But giving in only weakens you. Silence strengthens you. Every time you resist the pull, you prove to yourself that you are not controlled by the crowd. You are in control of your own energy. There's also a practical reason for silence in these situations. What you say can come back to you. Words travel. They may leave your mouth in a private conversation, but they don't stay there. They get repeated, twisted, exaggerated, until they reach the very person you spoke about, or even someone who has the power to affect your life and opportunities. A careless comment about someone can ruin trust, destroy relationships, or close doors that you might need in the future. Silence keeps you safe from that. It ensures that your words cannot be used against you because you gave none. But silence does more than protect. It elevates. When you refuse to engage in gossip and negativity, you rise above it. People begin to notice that you don't get involved in drama, that you don't waste time tearing others down. They see you as someone focused, someone with standards, someone who values peace over noise. That image builds respect. Even those who gossip may secretly admire you because deep down they know it takes strength to stay out of it. Silence also creates space for better things. Instead of filling your time with gossip, you can fill it with ideas, with learning, with meaningful conversations. Instead of feeding negativity, you can focus on solutions, on growth, on progress. Silence frees your energy from being wasted on what doesn't matter, so you can invest it in what truly does. And over time, this shift shows in your life. While others remain stuck in the cycle of gossip and negativity, you move forward. You achieve more because your focus is not divided. It's important to remember that silence doesn't mean you don't care or that you don't have an opinion. It means you are wise enough to know that not everything needs to be said. Silence in the face of gossip doesn't make you passive. It makes you powerful. Because you choose not to contribute to harm. Silence in the presence of negativity doesn't make you cold. It makes you strong, because you refuse to let that energy control you. The more you practice silence in these moments, the more peace you will feel. You won't carry the weight of other people's stories or the heaviness of constant complaints. You will carry clarity, focus, and strength. And people will come to recognize that about you. They will see you as someone different, someone who doesn't get pulled into the noise, someone who knows the value of their words and chooses to use them wisely. In the end, gossip and negativity are distractions. They don't build you. They don't move you closer to your goals. They don't make you stronger. But silence does. Silence is the quiet refusal to waste yourself on things beneath you. It is the choice to protect your integrity, your peace, and your energy. And that choice will always put you miles ahead of those who cannot control their tongues. There are times when silence becomes a gift, not just for you, but for the people around you. Too often, we forget that listening is more powerful than speaking. We live in a world where everyone wants to be heard, where voices compete to be the loudest, and where people interrupt because they're more focused on replying than understanding. But when you choose silence and allow others the space to speak, you give them something rare, the feeling of being truly heard. That simple act can transform relationships, build trust, and create bonds stronger than any words you could say. When someone is pouring their heart out, they don't always need advice, solutions, or opinions. They often just need presence. They need someone who is willing to sit with them in silence, to listen without judgment, and to give them the freedom to express themselves fully. Interrupting with your own perspective or rushing to fix things can make them feel dismissed, like their words don't matter. But silence communicates something different. It says, I am here. I am listening. What you're saying is important. That kind of silence is not emptiness. It is support. Think about the times in your own life when you felt truly listened to. It wasn't when someone cut you off to share their own story. It wasn't when someone tried to fix your problem before you even finished explaining it. It was when someone let you speak freely, when they gave you the space to release everything inside you without interruption. You probably didn't remember every word they said afterward, but you remembered how they made you feel understood, valued, respected. That is the power of silence. Silence in conversations doesn't mean you don't care. In fact, it shows the opposite. It shows restraint, discipline, and empathy. It takes strength to stay quiet when you have something to say, because the ego wants to jump in, to prove knowledge, to share experiences. But holding back creates a deeper connection. It shows that in that moment, the other person is more important than your need to speak. That sacrifice of silence makes people trust you more because they feel safe sharing their truth with you. Silence also allows you to learn more about people. When you don't interrupt, they reveal more than they would if you constantly jumped in. They share details, emotions, and perspectives that you would have missed otherwise. Every pause you give them is an invitation to go deeper. And in that depth, you discover things that help you understand not only them, but life itself. Silence becomes your teacher, because through listening you absorb wisdom that speaking could never give you. In leadership, silence when others need to be heard is especially powerful. A true leader doesn't dominate conversations with their own voice. They create space for others with their own voice. They create space for others to contribute. When a leader stays silent and listens, it empowers the people around them. It makes them feel valued, like their ideas matter. That builds confidence, loyalty, and unity. On the other hand, leaders who never listen and always speak create environments of fear and resentment. Silence, then, is not just kindness, it is a tool that inspires and motivates people to give their best. Even in personal relationships, silence can heal. Arguments often spiral because both sides want to be heard at the same time. Voices rise, tempers flare, and no one is really listening. But when one person chooses silence, not out of defeat, but out of strength, it shifts the energy. It allows the other person to release their emotions fully. And once they do, the space opens for real understanding. That silence can turn conflict into connection, because it shows that you value the relationship more than your pride in that moment. Silence when others need to be heard is also a practice in humility. It's admitting that your words are not always necessary, that sometimes what people need has nothing to do with you. It's about letting go of the need to be the center of attention, and instead making someone else the priority. That humility not only helps others feel valued, but it strengthens your own character. It trains you to step outside of yourself, to see the world through someone else's eyes, and to realize that growth often comes not from speaking, but from listening. There's another layer to silence in these moments. It teaches patience. Sometimes people take time to find their words. They pause, they hesitate, they circle around before saying what they truly mean. If you rush to fill those pauses with your own words, you rob them of the chance to fully express themselves. But if you remain silent, if you allow the pause to exist, you give them room to find clarity. That patience builds trust because they sense you are not just waiting to speak. You are waiting for them to be heard. Silence doesn't mean you never respond. It means you choose the right time. After someone has expressed themselves, after they've released what's inside, then your words can have impact. But in the middle of their expression, silence is what matters most. It's the bridge that allows their words to flow without resistance. And once that bridge is built, your words will be received with greater openness because they will know you truly listened first. At its core, silence, when others need to be heard, is an act of respect. It's saying, your voice matters. It's recognizing that communication is not just about speaking. It's about understanding. And understanding requires stillness, presence, and the discipline to hold back your own voice long enough to truly hear another's. The gift of silence is one of the most powerful things you can offer someone. It costs you nothing, but it gives them everything. It gives them validation, peace, trust, and the rare experience of being fully heard. And in return, it gives you wisdom, stronger connections, and the quiet strength that comes from putting your ego aside. Silence in these moments doesn't make you less, it makes you more. It makes you someone others can rely on, someone others respect, and someone who understands that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Not every dream is meant to be spoken aloud. Not every plan is meant to be shared. Sometimes silence is the only thing that protects your vision from being weakened by the wrong people. The truth is, the world is not always ready to support what you're building. Some will doubt you, some will laugh, some will criticize, and others will secretly hope you fail. When you speak too soon, when you expose your vision before it has roots, you open the door for negativity to creep in and choke it before it has the chance to grow. Silence, in this case, is not secrecy, it is protection. When you're working on something important, it's natural to want to tell people about it. You feel excited, inspired, and hopeful, and you want others to feel the same. But the problem is, not everyone sees what you see. They don't carry the fire inside you. They don't understand the drive that keeps you awake at night, and they don't share the hunger that fuels your ambition. To them, your vision might look unrealistic, foolish, or impossible. If you give them access to it too early, their doubts and disbelief can plant seeds in your mind. Even if you're strong, hearing constant negativity chips away at your confidence. Silence prevents that. By keeping your vision close, you protect it from being poisoned before it's ready. There is also envy. Some people will act supportive when you share your dreams, but deep down, they don't want to see you succeed. They may smile to your face, but behind your back they'll plant obstacles, spread doubt, or work to distract you. By staying silent, you deny them the opportunity. You starve their envy by not giving them details of what you're building. Silence, in this case, keeps your enemies blind and your vision safe. Silence doesn't mean you isolate yourself completely. It means you are selective. You learn who truly deserves to hear about your dreams and who doesn't. Only share your vision with people who have proven they can be trusted, who believe in you, and who want the best for you. Everyone else doesn't need to know your next move. In fact, the most powerful moves are often the ones no one sees coming. By staying silent, you give yourself the element of surprise. When your vision finally manifests, it speaks for itself, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop it. Another reason silence is powerful is that it frees you from the trap of seeking validation. When you talk too much about your goals, you start to crave approval. You want people to nod, to agree, to cheer you on. But when they don't, you feel discouraged. You start to doubt yourself not because you've lost faith, but because their reaction wasn't what you hoped for. This is dangerous because it makes your vision dependent on other people's approval instead of your own belief. Silence cuts that dependency. It teaches you to validate yourself, to trust your instincts, and to rely on your own fire rather than someone else's applause. Silence also keeps you focused. Talking about goals often tricks your brain into feeling like you've already accomplished something. It gives you a sense of satisfaction without doing the work. That's why so many people speak loudly about what they're going to do, but never actually do it. Silence keeps you hungry. It keeps the fire inside, forcing you to put your energy into action instead of words. And when the results come, they speak louder than any promise you could have made. There's also wisdom in moving quietly. Think of the strongest players in life, the ones who truly make an impact. They don't announce every step they take. They move in silence, work in silence, and let their success make the noise. Silence gives you freedom to pivot, to change directions, to adjust without anyone noticing. When people don't know what you're building, they can't interfere. They can't judge the process. They only see the finished product. But silence doesn't just protect your vision from others, it protects it from yourself. When you talk too much about your plans, you spread your energy outward. You spend time explaining instead of creating, defending instead of building. Over time, that drains you. But when you keep silent, all that energy stays focused. Your mind stays sharp, your actions stay consistent, and your vision grows stronger because it has your full attention. Silence also teaches patience. We live in a world of instant gratification where people want recognition before they've earned results. But visions take time. They require nurturing, discipline, and quiet persistence. By keeping silent, you remind yourself that greatness is not built overnight. You allow your vision to grow in the dark, like seeds planted beneath the soil. No one can see them at first, but eventually they break through and flourish for the world to witness. When the time is right, when your vision has matured and your results are undeniable, then you can speak. And when you do, you won't have to convince anyone. They'll see the proof. They'll see the results of your silence, the discipline, the work, the commitment. In that moment, your vision will shine brighter because it wasn't watered down by outside noise. So keep your vision close. Protect it with silence until it's strong enough to stand on its own. Not everyone deserves to hear your dreams, and not everyone has the capacity to understand them. Silence isn't about hiding, it's about guarding what is sacred. It's about keeping your fire alive in a world that often tries to extinguish it. And when your silence finally breaks, it won't be with words, it will be with undeniable results. Words are powerful, and once they leave your mouth, they can never be taken back. You may apologize, you may regret what you said, but the damage often lingers long after the moment has passed. This is why silence is sometimes the strongest response, especially when your words have the potential to cut deep or cause harm. A single phrase spoken in anger can destroy trust. A careless comment can scar someone's confidence. A bitter truth delivered without compassion can leave wounds that take years to heal. And often, we don't realize the weight of our words until it's too late. That's why silence is wisdom. It is restraint. It is the recognition that not everything you think needs to be spoken, and not every emotion you feel deserves an audience. There are times when you feel provoked, when frustration rises in your chest, and your instinct is to strike back. In those moments, silence saves you. Because once anger finds its way into your voice, it doesn't just express your feelings, it magnifies them. Words sharpen emotions. They make temporary anger feel permanent. They turn moments of conflict into lasting battles. Silence, on the other hand, allows time to cool your emotions. It gives space for your mind to settle before your tongue causes destruction. Instead of saying something you'll regret, you hold back, you breathe, and you let silence carry you through the storm. Sometimes silence is also an act of kindness. Imagine someone makes a mistake, and you notice it. You could point it out, criticize them, and make them feel small. But what purpose does that serve? Unless your words will help them grow, silence is often better. It allows them the dignity of learning without embarrassment. It spares them unnecessary pain. There is strength in knowing when to speak and when to let silence protect someone's pride. Even in relationships, silence can be a gift. Arguments escalate not because of what starts them, but because of the words that fuel them. A harsh insult, a sarcastic jab, or a dismissive tone can cause wounds that are harder to heal than the original problem. In those moments, silence isn't weakness. It's self-control. It's the choice to protect the bond instead of tearing it apart with reckless words. Silence gives both people space to reflect, to cool down, and to approach the issue with clarity rather than cruelty. Silence also protects your integrity. There will be times when you know something about someone that could hurt them if spoken aloud. You may feel tempted to expose it, to gossip, or to use it as leverage. But real strength is knowing when silence is more powerful than truth. Not every truth is meant to be broadcast. Some truths, if spoken without care, can destroy reputations, break families, or end friendships. If your words don't uplift, protect, or guide, then silence is often the nobler choice. We also underestimate how fragile people can be. A single cruel remark can echo in someone's head for years. What you dismiss as just a joke might be the one sentence that lingers in their mind every time they doubt themselves. This is why silence is so important. It's not about being passive. It's about being conscious of the weight of your voice. It's about understanding that silence can protect someone's spirit in ways words never could. But silence isn't just for others. It protects you, too. When you speak words fueled by anger, jealousy, or arrogance, you damage not only others but also yourself. You reveal sides of you that you may not want the world to see. You create regret that you'll have to carry. You damage relationships that matter to you. Silence saves you from the burden of apologizing for words that never should have been spoken. It shields you from the consequences of speaking without thinking. It allows you to remain grounded and in control when everything around you feels chaotic. There's also wisdom in silence because it allows reflection. When you hold your tongue, you give yourself time to ask, is this worth saying? Will this help or will it harm? Am I speaking to heal or to hurt? Most of the time, when you pause long enough to ask these questions, you realize silence is the better choice. It allows you to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. It gives you power over your emotions rather than letting your emotions have power over you. Even in leadership, silence is strength. A leader who speaks recklessly destroys trust, but a leader who knows when to remain silent earns respect. They don't waste words. They don't use language to tear down. They use silence as a tool to observe, to listen, and to act wisely. And when they finally do speak, their words carry more weight because they are not careless. They are intentional. The world often tells us to speak our minds at all costs, but true maturity is knowing that not every thought deserves a voice. Words should be chosen carefully because they carry the power to build or to break. And when you know your words could hurt, when you feel the sting of anger urging you to lash out, or when you're tempted to expose something that could destroy, silence is the higher path. Silence is not weakness. It is not avoidance. It is discipline. It is the quiet strength of someone who values peace over pride, compassion over cruelty, and restraint over regret. By choosing silence when your words could wound, you protect others, you protect your relationships, and you protect yourself. And in a world that often speaks too much and thinks too little, that kind of silence is rare. And it is powerful. There will be moments in life when people test you, not because they seek truth or wisdom, but because they want to pull you into their chaos. They want to see if they can shake your calm, drain your energy, or provoke you into losing your composure. These are the moments where silence becomes your greatest weapon. When your energy is being tested, every reaction you give away is like handing over pieces of your strength, and the more you react, the weaker you become. Silence, on the other hand, keeps your power intact. It tells the world that you are not someone who can be easily manipulated, provoked, or broken. You have to understand that not every comment deserves your attention, and not every battle deserves your participation. Some people thrive on conflict. They feed off your response. They want to see you explode because your reaction validates their importance. The moment you give in and answer with anger or frustration, you give them control over your state of mind. But when you remain silent, you deny them that satisfaction. You refuse to let them dictate your energy. Silence says, "You do not control me. I choose how I respond, and I choose peace over pettiness." When someone insults you, mocks you, or tries to provoke you, your silence speaks louder than any comeback you could ever throw. A witty response might feel good in the moment, but it also feeds the fire. It drags you into the same arena as the one who seeks to bring you down. Silence, however, leaves them powerless, because what they want most is your reaction, and when you give them nothing, they are left to wrestle with their own bitterness. Your silence forces them to sit with themselves, and that discomfort is often far more powerful than anything you could say. Think of your energy as a currency. Every word, every reaction, every argument spends it. If you waste your energy on petty disputes, unnecessary fights, or people who don't matter, you'll have nothing left for the things that actually do. Silence is how you save that currency. It's how you protect your reserves for the battles that matter, for the goals you're building, and for the people who deserve your attention. When you remain silent in the face of nonsense, you're not weak. You're wealthy with self-control. Silence also creates presence. The one who reacts quickly often looks unstable, but the one who pauses, who refuses to be dragged into every skirmish, carries an aura of strength. People notice that. They respect it. They see you as someone who doesn't bend to provocation. Silence makes you untouchable, because it shows you are anchored within yourself. Others may throw their storms at you, but your silence proves that your foundation is too solid to be moved. But silence is not about avoidance. It's about discernment. You must know which fights are worth your time and which are simply distractions. Not everything that demands your reaction deserves it. Some battles are designed only to waste your energy and leave you empty. By choosing silence, you choose wisdom. You let your silence speak for you, and often it says far more than any words could. There is also a psychological strength in silence. When someone is trying to test your energy, your silence unsettles them. They expect you to react. They want you to lose control. But when you don't, when you remain calm and collected, it confuses them. It shows them that you operate on a different level, one they cannot reach. That kind of silence intimidates, because it reveals mastery over self, and mastery over self is always greater than mastery over others. Your silence also teaches people how to treat you. If you argue with every insult, you show people that they can pull your strings whenever they want. But if you meet insults with silence, you show them their words mean nothing to you, that you do not give weight to nonsense. Over time, people stop wasting their energy on trying to provoke you, because your silence makes them realize they cannot touch you. Think about it, great leaders, wise mentors, and strong individuals are rarely those who react to every challenge thrown their way. They are often quiet, observant, and composed. They speak only when necessary, because they understand that energy is precious. They know silence is a form of dominance. It allows them to control the battlefield by refusing to fight on someone else's terms. In your own life, you will encounter people who gossip about you, criticize you, or belittle your dreams. Some will test you because they envy your progress. Others will test you because they are dissatisfied with themselves. If you respond to every attack, you'll spend your life exhausted, constantly defending yourself. But if you choose silence, you rise above it. You focus your energy where it matters, on building, growing, and becoming. Silence becomes your shield, your protection against those who seek to steal your peace. Silence is not about suppressing your voice forever. It's about knowing when speaking serves you and when it drains you. It's about recognizing that your energy is sacred and not everyone deserves access to it. When your energy is being tested, silence is not weakness. It is strength. It is strategy. It is self-respect. It is the choice to protect your peace and to stand tall in your own power, no matter how loudly the world tries to provoke you. There comes a point in life when you must ask yourself, what am I really trying to achieve here? Do I want to be right, or do I want to be at peace? Many people confuse the two, believing that winning every argument, every confrontation, every debate somehow makes them stronger. But in reality, chasing victory in every situation often drains your energy, poisons your relationships, and robs you of inner calm. Sometimes silence is the greater victory, because peace is more valuable than proving a point. You don't have to respond to every attack. You don't have to correct every misunderstanding. You don't have to fight to show people you are right. The truth is, life is not a courtroom where every case needs to be argued. Sometimes, choosing silence is the wisest decision because you understand that not every battle leads to something meaningful. There are moments where winning the argument costs you more than losing it ever would. You may win the point, but lose your peace. You may win the fight, but lose your focus. And in the end, what is the point of victory if it leaves you empty, bitter, and exhausted? When you stay silent in situations where peace matters more than being right, you demonstrate maturity. You show that your ego does not control you. People who always need to win, who always need to have the last word, are prisoners of their own pride. They are constantly seeking validation, needing the world to acknowledge them. But true strength is not found in forcing others to agree with you. True strength is in knowing you are right within yourself, and not needing to prove it to anyone else. Your silence says, I don't need to win this fight because I've already won within me. Consider the relationships in your life. How many arguments could have been avoided if someone simply chose silence? How many friendships, families, or partnerships could have been saved if one person decided peace was more valuable than the ego's need to be correct? Sometimes silence is not surrender, it's protection. It protects the bond, it protects the peace of the environment, and it protects your own mental clarity. Winning may satisfy your ego in the moment, but peace feeds your soul in the long run. Silence also has the power to de-escalate. When tempers are flaring, when emotions are high, words only add fuel to the fire. Choosing silence in that moment is like pouring water over flames. It calms the situation before it spirals out of control. And often, when emotions settle, the truth becomes clearer without you ever needing to say a word. People will see things for what they are, and your silence will be remembered as wisdom, not weakness. But don't mistake silence for passivity. Choosing silence is not about letting people walk over you or accepting injustice. It is about discernment. It is about knowing when to fight and when to walk away. Not every hill is worth dying on. Not every battle deserves your presence. Sometimes the cost of proving your point is too high, and wisdom is in choosing silence instead. This is not weakness, it is strategy. It's the awareness that you don't need to fight every time you're invited to war. Imagine a person who argues about everything, constantly debating, constantly needing to be right. They might win here and there, but they will live in perpetual conflict. Their life will be noisy, heavy, and chaotic. Now imagine someone who carefully chooses their battles, who knows when to speak and when to remain silent. That person lives lighter, freer, more focused. They don't waste their life on meaningless disputes. Their silence grants them space to pursue what actually matters. That is the difference between a life of peace and a life of endless conflict. Your silence also teaches others something powerful. When you refuse to fight unnecessary battles, you model strength. You show others that peace is a choice, and that it takes far more discipline to remain calm than it does to explode in anger. People will remember your restraint. They will respect the fact that you didn't waste your energy proving yourself to them. In fact, often your silence makes people reflect more deeply on their own behavior. They may realize the pettiness of the conflict simply because you chose not to engage. This applies to your professional life as well. In the workplace, arguments, politics, and power struggles are everywhere. If you fight every small battle, you will drain yourself and damage your reputation. But if you know when to stay silent, you will rise above the noise. You will be seen as composed, collected, and focused on the bigger picture. Silence can build authority in ways that words never could. It sends a clear message. You are not here for drama. You are here for results. At the end of the day, silence is a form of strength. It's the ability to look at a situation, weigh its importance, and decide whether the fight is worth it. Most of the time, you'll realize that peace is far more valuable than winning. Peace keeps your mind clear. Peace protects your health. Peace allows you to focus on growth, on progress, on building something greater than an argument. And that is the real victory, the kind of victory no argument can ever give you. So the next time someone challenges you, insults you, or drags you into unnecessary conflict, pause and ask yourself, is this worth it? Will winning this battle bring me anything of value, or will it only cost me my peace? If the answer is that peace matters more, then stay silent. Let your silence speak for you. Let it show that you are stronger than your ego, stronger than the noise, stronger than the need to win. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can ever do is to walk away in silence and keep your peace intact. At the end of the day, silence is not just the absence of words, it is the presence of wisdom. It is the ability to recognize that not every situation requires your voice, and not every challenge deserves your energy, and not every battle needs to be fought. Silence is power when used with intention. It's a shield that protects your peace, a sword that cuts through meaningless noise, and a strategy that positions you above chaos. Think about the 9 situations we've explored. In each one, silence was not about weakness. It was about strength. When emotions run high, silence prevents regret. When someone tries to provoke you, silence denies them the satisfaction of stealing your composure. When you lack knowledge, silence preserves your credibility. When gossip surrounds you, silence removes you from the toxicity. When others need to be heard, silence becomes a gift. When your dreams are fragile, silence protects them from doubters. When words could cause harm, silence demonstrates kindness. When your energy is tested, silence avoids unnecessary battles. And when peace is more valuable than winning, silence becomes your greatest victory. If you look closely, you'll realize that silence is never really empty. It speaks volumes. It communicates confidence, restraint, self-control, and inner strength. People who cannot stay silent are often controlled by their emotions, by their egos, or by the need for validation. But people who can remain silent at the right moments are the ones who command true respect. They don't need to prove themselves with endless words. They let their actions, their discipline, and their presence speak for them. Silence also gives you clarity. In silence, you reflect. In silence, you regain perspective. In silence, you can hear your own intuition guiding you. This is why so many great leaders, thinkers, and warriors valued silence. They understood that the greatest decisions are not made in the heat of chaos, but in the calm of stillness. The ability to pause, to breathe, to withhold unnecessary words, that is the mark of someone who is not just strong but wise. The world we live in glorifies noise. Everyone wants to talk, to argue, to shout their opinions. But few have the discipline to stay silent and observe. That's why silence will always set you apart. It makes you unshakable in a world that thrives on reaction. It makes you powerful in a world that confuses noise with influence. It makes you wise in a world where so many speak without thinking. So let silence be your strength. Let it protect your peace, preserve your energy, and elevate your character. Don't waste words on those who don't deserve them. Don't waste energy on battles that don't matter. Don't waste your inner calm trying to win arguments that add nothing to your life. Learn the art of silence, because it is one of the most powerful tools you will ever possess.